Hello everyone and welcome back to Code with Goldencat. Today we'll be creating a Chatroom web application using Spring Boot and WebSockets. So let's begin. By the end of this video, you should have a working web application that looks something like this. So I have two instances of that web application open. Now if I type in my username and enter the chat, it gives me this message Goldencat has joined the chat. Now if I type in another username here, as you can see, I got the real-time notification that Smile Dog has just joined the chat. And Smile Dog has joined the chat now. So I can type in message here and then send it, and in real time that gets delivered. And also when I leave the chat from one of the instance, I also get notified that Smile Dog has left the chat. So without further ado, let's dive straight into coding. As always, we'll first be downloading the skeleton project from our GitHub repository. So first, we'll copy this link, then go to our required folder, then open command prompt, then type in git clone and then the repository link. This would clone the repository and then you can open it in IntelliJ. So by default, you should be at end branch. So if I open the git tab here, you can see in the local we only have end branch. Now the end branch contains all the finished project. So if I open src main and then java, you can see I already have all the files that we'll be creating in this tutorial. So if you get stuck at any step of the tutorial, you can use this branch for reference. Now for skeleton project, we'll be checking out the start branch. So we'll click on checkout here. And then we have the skeleton project here with no files as we intended. Now before we talk about what we are getting back in our skeleton project, let's understand what is a WebSocket. A WebSocket is a communication protocol that allows a continuous two-way connection between a client like a web browser and a server. Unlike traditional HTTP request, where the client sends a request and waits for the server's response, WebSocket creates a persistent connection, so both the client and server can send and receive messages anytime without needing to repeatedly reconnect. Now let's understand this concept a little bit better by using a real-world example. Imagine you and your friend are playing a game and you both have walkie-talkies. Once you press the button and establish a connection, you can talk to each other instantly without needing to reconnect every time. You can both speak and listen at the same time. This is how WebSocket works. It creates a direct, always open connection between your device, the client, and server. Now compare this to traditional HTTP communication, which is like sending letters. You write a letter, send it, and wait for a reply. It's slower and less efficient if you need constant back and forth communication. So in real life applications like a live chat application or online game, WebSocket ensures you get real time updates instantly, just like walkie talkies, making the experience smooth and fast. Now that we understand what is a WebSocket, let's see what we are getting back in our skeleton project. So first, we have this Chatroom application that is using the annotation at the Spring Boot application that marks it as the starting point for our Spring Boot application. Then, in the resources section, we have a couple of screenshots for the GitHub. Then, in the templates, we have two HTML files here, chat.html and login.html. Now, the login.html file is responsible for creating the login page that we saw in the demo. So, it creates a login page which has an input field here that can be used to input the username of a user. Then we have the chat.html that contains the main client code. So if I scroll down here, and then we have the script section here. So let's go through all of this line by line. So first, we are declaring a variable called Storm client, which will manage the WebSocket connection using the Storm protocol. Then we are retrieving the username from the URL query string and displaying the username in an HTML element with the ID username. Then we have an object named userColors that stores unique color for each users. And then we have a function called getRandomColor that generates a random color in hexadecimal format. Then we have a function called functionConnect. Now this function establishes a connection to the WebSocket server. So first, we are creating a new WebSocket connection to the server endpoint /chat-WebSocket. Then we wrap the sock.js connection with Stomp for messaging. Then we connect the WebSocket server and subscriber to the topic/messages channel to receive messages. Then we send a message to the /app/chat endpoint to notify others that user has joined the chat. Then we have a function called sendMessage. Now this function retrieves the message entered by the user in the input field, sends the message to the /app/chat endpoint using stomp client.send, then clears the input field after sending the message. Then we have this function leaveChat, which is responsible for sending a message to /app/leave notifying that the user has left the chat and also redirect the user to the home page. Then we have a function called showMessage. Now this displays a new message in the chat window. It checks if the user already has an assigned color, if not, assigns a random color, then creates a new paragraph element with the message content and styles it with the user's color, and then appends the message to the message container and scrolls to the bottom to show the latest message. Finally, at line number 172, we are calling the connect function when the page loads to establish the WebSocket connection and starts receiving message. Now that we understand what we are getting back in our skeleton project, let's dive straight into coding. So first, we'll be creating a couple of packages here. So first, we'll be creating config. Then we'll also need a controller, and then package called model. Now whatever code that we are writing right now is server-side code, always remember. And whatever code that we have written in the chat.html is client-side code. Now in the config, we'll first create a file called WebSocket config. This class would have two annotations at that configuration, which marks it as a configuration file for Spring, and then at the rate enable WebSocket message broker that enables WebSocket message handling with a message broker. Now this class would also implement an interface called WebSocket message broker configurer. Now this interface has a couple of methods, but we are only interested in two of them right now. So we'll right click on it, then click on generate, then override methods, and then we'll select register stomp endpoint and configure message broker. Click on OK. Now we'll remove this part and also this part. Now first, we'll write the definition for this configure message broker. So we'll type in registry dot enable simple broker slash topic, and then registry dot set application destination prefix to slash app. So this method would be responsible for configuring the message broker responsible for routing messages. Line number 19 enables a simple in-memory message broker that will broadcast messages to clients subscribing to destination prefixed with slash topic. For example, a message sent to slash topic slash messages will be delivered to all subscribers of that topic. And then line number 20, we are setting the prefix for messages that are routed to controller methods. Any message with a destination like slash app slash chat will be handled by a method in a controller annotated with @message mapping slash chat that we'll be creating soon. Now let's also complete the definition for this register stomp endpoint. We'll type in registry dot add endpoint slash chat WebSocket dot with sock.js. Now this method would register stomp endpoints that clients will use to connect to the WebSocket server. Line number 14 registers the endpoint slash chat WebSocket where clients will establish WebSocket connections, and that dot with sock.js enables fallback option for browsers that do not support native WebSockets by using sock.js, a library that emulates WebSockets. And that's it, we are done with our config file. Now we'll create a model class with the name chat message. Now this class would have only two properties. First, private string username, and then private string content. Now we'll add a couple of annotations here. First one being getter, that is an annotation from Lombok that creates getters for all of these properties that we have defined. Then @setter that creates setter for all of these properties. Then all args constructor that creates a constructor. So if I were to create a constructor here like public chat message string username comma string content, this constructor would be equivalent to having this annotation called all args constructor. Now let's remove this, and then we'll also define a no args constructor, that is a constructor that doesn't take any arguments. That's it, we are done with our model class now. Finally, we'll create a controller class here. So we'll name this as chat controller. So first, we'll mark this class with an annotation called @controller that marks it as a controller class in Spring Boot's eyes. Then we'll type in public chat message end. This would take an argument chat message and throws exception to handle any exceptions. Then we'll write return new chat message, and then inside here we'll type in HTML utils dot HTML escape message dot get username comma HTML utils dot HTML escape, and then message dot get content, and we'll put a terminator here. Now we'll also add some annotations here @message mapping slash chat, and then send to slash topic slash message. Let's import this. Now we are getting an error here, so let's hover over it. It says cannot resolve constructor chat message string. I think I missed a bracket here. Let's remove this one and we are golden. Now at the rate message mapping maps the WebSocket messages sent to /app/chat based on the prefix configured in WebSocket config to this method. Then at the rate send to sends the returned chat messages object to all clients subscribed to the /topic/message topic. Then the method receives a chat message object from the client, escapes the username and content field using html escape to prevent cross-site scripting attacks, and then returns the escape message, which will be broadcast to all connected clients. Now after this, we'll create another method here called public chat message leave throws exception, and this method would take in chat message again as an argument, and it would have the same annotations that we are using here. The only difference would be the values. So we'll change this to /leave. That's it. For its definition, we'll write return new chat message html utils dot html escape message dot get username comma html utils dot html escape message dot get username plus as left the chat. And that's it. We are done with this method. Now this method has a different message mapping. The message mapping /leave maps WebSocket messages sent to /app/leave to this method. And for the method functionality, it receives a chat message object when a user leaves the chat. Then it escapes the username and appends has left the chat to the message content. And finally, returns the formatted message to notify all users that someone has left. Finally, we'll create two more methods here. First one would be public string login return login, and we'll be using annotation at the get mapping /. Now this maps the HTTP GET request to the root's URL to this method, and this returns the login page to the user. And finally, we'll also create a get mapping for our chat web page in the method public string chat. Now this method would take in two parameters at the rate request param string username model, and we are getting an error here, so we need to add this. Type in model add attribute username comma username return chat. Now this maps the HTTP GET request to /chat to this method. As for the method functionality, this adds the username to the model object, which makes it available in the chat.html template and returns the string chat, instructing Spring Boot to render the chat.html template, which is the Chatroom interface. That's it. We are done with the code part. Now let's test this application. Now we'll start this application by going to Chatroom application, then clicking on Run Chatroom application. Now let's open this by typing in localhost 8080 and we're getting back our login page. I type in Goldencat here. I'm able to log into the chat application. Now if I open another instance of it by clicking on new window and let's minimize it a little bit. Type in localhost 8080 again. And for username, I'll type in smiledog. You can see that we are getting back the real-time notification that smiledog has joined the chat. And if smiledog messages us, hello cat, we are getting the real-time chat message again. Now I can also open another instance of this localhost and add another user. Let's just say Grumpy Cat. Click on enter chat and Grumpy Cat has joined the chat. Now user leaves the chat. Let's just say Grumpy Cat leaves the chat. We get a message that says Grumpy Cat has left the chat. So everything is working as expected. So this is how you can use WebSockets to create a web application that uses real-time communication or messaging. Now if you want more projects like this on Spring Boot and Java, you can let me know in the comments down below. As always, we'll end this video with a quote that says, "Push through the pain, giving up hurts more." Thank you for watching and have a great day.